Coming onto your backs, we're going to start in the constructive rest posture. And so to find constructive rest in a really easy way, so that the feet are in a good alignment, we're going to take the legs up and then we just let the feet flop to the floor. And do that again. And one more time, just finding our best posture. And the hands are going to rest next to the pelvis. And while we're here, we pause to really integrate and feel our way into how our body is resting on the floor. So just notice, beginning at the feet, do a little scan up the body, noticing the feet first. You might notice that your feet are leaning, one goes one way, the other goes the other way, even though they're flat on the floor. Or maybe they feel very symmetrical today. Come on up. So we use this as a baseline or a benchmark, and we'll come back to it at the end of the practice so that we can just notice how the practice has impacted our body. Come on up to the pelvis. So the sacrum is in the center of the back side of the pelvis. It's like a triangle. It has 5 bones in it. And we're just going to notice, are we resting centered? Maybe to the right side or the left side of the pelvis, of the sacrum. Notice the waist. Does it have contact with the floor? If you slipped a hand underneath the waist, could you slip a hand underneath the waist? We're just noticing. Rib cage, shoulder blades. Is one shoulder blade more clearly present in your awareness than the other? Feel the space behind the neck. Notice the space behind the neck. Observe that. And then how the back of the head is resting. Does the head feel centered, weighted to the right, weighted to the left? Just noticing. Connecting with our breath now, we'll do some pelvic tilts. We're going to roll down to the base of the sacrum. That lifts the waist, so there's space underneath the waist with this. And then we're going to roll up, flatten the waist, and then roll down. Notice your breathing here. And rock gently back and forth, noticing the point at which the head starts to move with the action. So we're kind of ironing out the low back, the sacrum, the pelvis, the hips, the hip joints. And then we pause. And we notice our breath. Walking the feet out as wide as the mat. They're still going to be standing on the mat. We'll do some windshield wipers. So we gently begin, slowly, right and left. We're noticing that any variation from side to side, maybe the hip flexor feels tighter on one side than the other. Maybe one leg opens a little further than the other. Let the head travel with this action. So when we go to the left, the spine turns to the left, which turns the head to the left. We're not forcing it, we're just allowing the body to become congruent from the feet to the crown of the head. How nice is that? The next time you find yourself on the right side, we're going to pause here and we're going to allow the hip flexor in the left side to begin to stretch, to soften. If you want a little bit more, you could take that left hand, slide it up above the head, or maybe bring it to a cactus arm and just reach. If you'd like even a little bit more, we're going to hold that left wrist with the right hand and pull on the side body. You'll feel this activating through the abdomen, perhaps. Now press into the inner edge of that left foot and lift that pelvis just a little bit higher. That's going to deepen the stretch in the hip flexors here. If that's too much, then you can just back off a little bit. And then when you feel like the stretch has been fully realized, then maybe press a little bit more. Again, that lifts the pelvis and deepens the stretch. Floating the arms down, we're going to release that action and slowly, gently take the knees now to the left side. So the feet are still as wide as the mat. So when we come to the left side, we're going to pause here and now observe. Feel the sensation of the stretch in the right side. Is it as strong a stretch as in the other side? Is it easier? We're observing and noticing, and we're breathing. If you'd like a little bit more, that right arm can slide up. And if that feels good, then we can take the left hand, hold the right wrist. Maybe the arm just stays at cactus. You be the decider for your shoulders, what's going to feel good today. And then when that stretch starts to feel like, oh yeah, that's getting it, we're going to press into the right edge, the inside edge of the right foot. That's going to lift the pelvis and deepen the stretch. And we're breathing here. So especially if you have a firm mattress, you could do the pelvic tilts, the windshield wipers, and the side stretch in bed in the morning when you wake up. Before your feet hit the floor, we can find a way to have a little softening in the structure of our body. Hands are going to float down. And we're going to come back gently to center. We'll visit the baseline here. Feel the feet. Notice how they're contacting the floor, sliding up to the pelvis. Notice the pelvis as it rests on the floor, and notice your waist, rib cage, shoulder blades, space behind the neck, and how the head rests now. Does anything feel more clearer? Does anything feel clearer in your mind's eye? Like, do you feel your shoulder blades a little more fully? Breathing in, we roll down toward the tailbone. Breathing out, we flatten the waist. And then we come to neutral. Let's take our hands behind our head. The fingers can interlace or just touch. Breathe in, we roll down toward the tailbone, chin comes toward the heart. Breathe out, flatten the waist, lift, draw the elbows toward each other. This is the out breath. And then the in breath, the arms float, elbows open, head returns to the mat. Breathe in and roll down toward the tailbone. On the out breath, when we flatten the waist, we lift the head, draw the elbows toward each other, and then we release back to the mat. We'll do that one more time. Breathe in, roll down toward the tailbone, flatten the waist to lift the head, breathe out. And then slowly lower and arms open, elbows open, arms slide down. Oh, we're good. We're going to bring our attention now hand behind the head. Let's take the right hand behind the head. We're going to take the left hand and it's going to guide the left leg. So breathing in, we roll down toward the tailbone. Breathing out, we flatten the waist, lift and guide that left leg up, and the right elbow comes toward the left knee. And then release to the mat. Breathe in to roll down toward the tailbone, flatten the waist to lift that left leg, guiding it with the left hand, the right elbow toward the knee. No destination, just the action. And again, you can always just use your imagination. Breathing in lifts the waist, breathing out flattens the waist, and we guide that left leg toward the right elbow as we lift the head with the hand. And then we come back to the mat. Let the right hand go. Bring it back down to neutral. Now it's going to come close to the right leg and be the guide for the right leg as we take that left hand underneath the back of the head. Breathe in and roll down toward the tailbone. That lifts the waist. Flattening the waist, we're going to lift the head using the hand and guide that right leg toward the left elbow. And then we come back. And the breath continues to move. Breathe in and roll down toward the tailbone. Flattening the waist to lift the right leg, guiding it. And that left elbow comes toward the knee. Release to the mat. And one more time, breathe in and roll down toward the tailbone. On the out breath, flatten the waist, lift, cross body, and then we slowly return to the mat. Breathe in, and on the out breath, flatten the waist, both knees come in toward the heart, rock gently right and left. And then small circles in the low back, one direction and then the other. Then we're going to bring those knees right up above the hip joints. We're going to take our hands to the thighs, and we're going to press our hands into the thighs and the thighs into the hands. This activates deep, low belly muscles. Breathe here. We're doing a press, counter press, release, draw the knees in, find a rocking, circling, spiraling, stirring motion that feels good. And then we're going to come back to that knees right up above the hip joints, hands resting on the front of the thighs, flex those feet, press the hands into the thighs and the thighs into the hands. Keep the breath moving here. And draw knees toward the heart again, rocking gently right and left. And one more time, knees right above the hip joints, feet are flexed, press into the thighs with the hands and the hands with the thighs, and breathe. And then we're slowly going to lower the feet to the mat. Rock gently right and left. Pause here. And now on the in-breath, we're going to float our arms up, palms facing each other. On the next in-breath, we touch down above the head. And on the out-breath, we're going to gather the knees into our heart. Flexed feet travel to the sky. Arms extend on the next in-breath. And on the out-breath, draw the knees in. And if it feels good, lift the head and look between the legs. And then release to the mat. Breathing in, float those arms up. On the next in-breath, we touch down. On the out-breath, flatten the waist to draw those knees in. Flexed feet to the sky on the in-breath. Touch down, arms above the head. And on the next out-breath, gather the legs in. Lift the head, the heart, and release to the mat. One more time. On the in-breath, the arms float up to touchdown. On the out-breath, press that waist into the floor to draw the knees in. The in-breath takes the feet flexed to the ceiling, extend the arms. And on the next out-breath, gather the knees, lift the head, the heart. Look forward and release to the mat. How you doing? I'm going to invite you to have your block nearby. If you don't have a block handy, we'll pause here so you can grab that prop. You can also use a folded up blanket if a block feels like it might be too hard today. We're going to do a few bridge lifts and then we'll do a supported bridge into our psoas stretch. So we're going to walk our feet a little bit closer to our glutes. We're going to take our arms into robot arms. So the elbows come next to the rib cage, fingertips pointing at the sky. We're going to connect with the inner edges of our feet. And on an in-breath, we're going to lift our pelvis. We're coming into bridge. And we're going to breathe about 3 breaths here. And then we're going to slowly lower one section of the spine at a time. until we've landed on the floor. We're going to do that again. So connect with the elbows resting next to the rib cage. Feel your feet anchored firmly to the floor. Connect with the inner edge, like the big toe down the inside of the foot, through the all the way to the heel, through the arch. Here we go. Breathe in, press up to bridge. This is really good for pelvic health, by the way. 3 breaths here. And then slowly, we're going to lower one section of the spine at a time. This is also a strengthener for the hamstrings. So if you find your hamstring feels a little noisy, you could just stretch the leg out and flex the foot. Now we're going to have the block nearby because we're moving into supported bridge here. So have your block or your blanket handy. We're going to press up into bridge again. So best efforts here, inner edge of the foot activates, and we lift up, and then we're going to take that block and slide it right underneath the pelvis, and we're going to settle on it. So it's centered on the sacrum. You can use 2 blocks for this, one side by side if you want. We're doing this though so that the whole underneath, the whole sacrum is resting on something. And then side to side, the pelvis is resting on something. We're breathing here. And we're just allowing the body to get accommodated to this posture. And now we're going to draw that left leg in. Support the leg. You can use your hand or you can use a strap. We're going to slide the right leg out long. And we pause here. So we're going into that psoas again. We're getting into that hip flexor for a nice deep stretch in the hip flexor. We'll be here for about 1 minute. And so some people don't like doing this on a block. It feels destabilizing or uncomfortable. You could do this on the floor, just resting on the floor. If that feels better, the knee draws in. Both feet are flexed. And we breathe here. And if you notice the hip flexor starts loosening up, feeling a little bit more cheery, press into the heel of the foot like you're trying to press against the wall. That's opposite. And of course, this posture can be done with the foot pressing into the wall at the baseboard. That is a really, really powerful, powerful deep stretch. Okay, we're going to shift now. So take your time, slide that right foot up, bring it in, release the left foot, slide the left foot long, flex the foot. The right leg draws in, flex that foot. And so, of course, you can always support this with the strap, but do something to support the leg that's in toward the heart. Because if it's just hanging out there, then it lessens the stretch in the hip flexor because the brain and the body are trying to balance what to do with the other leg. So the other leg is supported somehow or other. We'll be here for 1 minute. Gentle breath. Maybe flex that left foot a little more deeply, pressing the heel away. And slide that left heel up. Release the right foot to the floor. We're back in supported bridge. To rise out of this, press up, slide the block out, release to the floor, and we come back to our baseline. We come back and notice the feet on the floor. We notice the pelvis resting on the floor, the space be underneath the waist, the rib cage to shoulder blades, the back of the head, space underneath the neck. And we just observe for a moment the body's response to the practice that we've done today. And then we release into Shavasana. Maybe the legs go long and the feet fall open, or maybe we stay in constructive rest posture. Your choice. Just allow yourself to gather breath. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. Emerson. Gently begin to deepen the breath and drawing that breath into your fingers and your toes. And then rolling to one side. We bring ourselves to seated. And we open our arms wide to gather all the blessings that already exist, and we draw them into our hearts. In appreciation and gratitude, together we say, Namaste.